Hi, everybody. This is Kevin, and today I'm here with Andy Christopher again. And today we're going to talk about a benefit that I really think, Andy, this benefit really needs to be framed in a way that really helps our pilots to make good decisions. So, Andy, welcome. And
Yep.
if you want to just go ahead and introduce the topic today.
Yeah. So I think some of our previous videos in the context of the PRAP, the spill cash for the different limits, right? And so the discussion back then was, well, how do you get money into this magical health reimbursement account or retiree health account? So HRA, RHA. But now we're going to deep dive a little bit further in just how much do you need? And we're going to maybe just provide some framework, some discussion, mental models, if you will, for like what is the appropriate amount to have in this account, because there are some limitations. So it'll be a little bit of a review, and then we'll jump in, and I think we'll finish it up with maybe a framework that if you're a United pilot thinking about how much you need in this type of account, what is the appropriate amount, or how to even save. So first thing I'll say is, if you want to know how to get money in, I'd watch some of the previous videos or the previous video where we talked about it. And then now let's talk about should you. I think it's maybe the way to think about it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
How's that sound?
So I think when we talk rules of thumb, this is not a rule of thumb discussion. This is a deep thought process going through the features and benefits of the RHA and who might want to use it and the reasons why and how to even make the decision. Andy, most of the time the accounts that we have, it's pretty easy to
Yeah.
know how much you want to save. More
Yeah.
is usually better. Too much is usually too painful. Who are the people that might want to save more, Andy?
Yeah, maybe back it up to even just your comment just a minute ago about, hey,
Mhm.
if you're saving for retirement, you want to maximize and save as much. And generally that's true. And the RHA is a little bit different because of the kind of the use it or lose it framework. But we have plenty of people when they talk about spending in retirement, like, well, I want to have $0, and leave nothing to my kids, which is a fine thought to have. But that's not really true. That's not really how you plan, because planning to have $0 means you have a pretty high probability of having $0 well before you pass. And so we can't really plan that way in a traditional financial planning sense. We probably can plan that way more when we think about the RHA, again, because of that use it or lose it framework. So it's a little bit of a mindset shift, not to say we don't want to fund it. We absolutely do. You just kind of don't want to overfund it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, in
So
today's
who's it good for?
society,
Yeah.
we hear people all the time say it's no good because, and then they just say
Yeah.
because if you don't use it, you lose it. And
Yeah.
we think that's too simple. We're not saying the people that say it are simple. We're just saying that we think it's too simple just to say, hey, it's no good because if you use it, you lose it. There is
Yeah.
actually a framing of, what's the purpose of the account. So that's really what problem are we trying to solve here, Andy, with the RHA, HRA investment account?
Yeah. You're trying to solve the problem of, man, healthcare in retirement is super expensive. It's
Yeah,
like you're
yeah,
reading my
cool.
mind.
Yeah,
This is what you're trying to solve for, right? And this is today's dollars. If you're a couple age 65, you're probably going to need about $318,000. And that's for a Medigap plan. There's a whole different discussion we could have on the different types of plans. But that's, just as a baseline kind of number for today, you would need an account with a value of about a little over $300,000 to have a 90% chance of meeting your healthcare needs through your life, right? So that's kind of a big number. That's kind of a big number. And so that's what we're really trying to solve for when we think about what is the most efficient way to save and really to spend those dollars. And it's definitely and I'm going to lump some terms here, that HRA, RHA we just talked about, and I'll even throw an HSA in there for those who are in like high deductible health plans.
mhm,
The reason I lump those together is because they do provide what's called a triple tax benefit of, you get
mhm.
the tax deduction on the front, it grows tax deferred, and then you don't ever pay taxes assuming you use it on qualified expenses. So we're
Yeah.
really trying to solve for a tax efficiency here in order to pay for this high cost of medical care in retirement.
Yeah. So the first framing is that if you live, and this is super geeky economics, but if you live, you have a liability every year for healthcare. So, the people that say, well, if you die, if you both die, or if you die, you lose it, you lose the money. That's true. Of course, if you do die, that liability also goes away. But we definitely understand that there's a loss aversion. It's painful to lose money. But really, that is the problem we're solving for. Is we're solving for not just healthcare in a given year. We're solving for the longevity of healthcare and how much it costs. So
Yep.
318,000, Andy, is that in today's dollars or is that inflated out over retirement?
That's today's dollars. Yeah, that's what you would need, right? In today's dollars. So again,
Yeah,
big number. If you're contemplating just what is this going to cost? And again, that assumes you retire
yeah,
at 65. And everyone's situation, there's the caveat always, everyone's situation is different. Military retirees are going to have less. If you retire at age 60,
right.
then you're going to spend quite a bit more, right? So everyone's situation is going to be pretty different in that regard.
So if you were a probability person, would you say that you should try to save 318,000 for the date of retirement? Or since you have a chance of not spending that amount and dying early, maybe not so much. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, if I knew exactly what healthcare costs and I knew exactly when I was going to die,
Darn it.
then yeah, no, totally. I would that's the number I would get. But it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Sure.
Again, when we start talking about the context for United pilots who are this HRA, RHA participant. So maybe a quick review. Again, we've got a video that goes into this, but I'll just kind of spend a few minutes priming the discussion on the
Mhm.
difference between the two, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So HRA, Health Reimbursement Account, that's if you're currently in the United Healthcare Plan. Again, just think that if you're in any United Healthcare Plan, they're putting in the money into the HRA. It's invested conservatively. Think like a money market account. Again, there's reasons that's done because the assumption is I'm going to need these funds, you know, now to fund it. And you can, if you're an HRA participant, access those funds and use them. There's some exemptions if you're in a high deductible health plan in an HSA participant.
Right,
That
right.
money is going to go to the RHA Retiree Health Account, and they're going to sweep about $15,000 or the amount greater than, I should say, 15,000 on January 10th of every year, and the amount greater than 5,000 on June 10th. So, anyways, and then 60 days after retirement, it's all going to go into this RHA, which is the account that's going to be in retirement. So the big picture is, and for our planning purposes, we really are talking RHAs. We're making an assumption here that this is someone who didn't touch these funds while they were working and using. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea to use those funds. By all means, if you want to use them to pay the premium. But I think the true benefit of this account, Kevin, is using these funds in retirement. It's kind of
Sure,
that's
sure.
my going in game plan, I would say.
Yeah, and Andy, I really like sweeping money. I think that's a pretty interesting concept. Do you know how that concept came about? Why did they call it sweeping the money? Do you know?
I don't. I don't. Do you?
No, no. I asked the question. I didn't know the answer. Oh well, we'll have to figure that out. But maybe
Yeah,
someone watching knows. If you do know where the
for the
terminology
comment.
sweeping money, I guess you have so much money that you have to sweep
You
it.
just
But
yeah,
anyway, so as far as
yeah.
the funding and how to use, anything else on that?
So I would say a reasonable assumption is take number of years you've been at the airline, $1,000, that this plan has been in play, and then maybe 10 to 15,000 is, if you're like a pretty senior captain, and you put stocking a lot of money away and you're a high income earner, and then you could probably start getting that additional amount into this account as you go.
Yeah, and we chewed the fat a little bit before our filming here, Andy, and we said, it used to be a discussion of should you put money into the RHA or allow it to spill, and then maybe
Yes.
invest the money at that point. But
Yeah.
coming in 2025, the decisions get reframed again because you can now put money in the market-based cash balance pension plan, or you can put money in the RHA. So this becomes even a little bit more confusing, but
Yeah.
really, the tremendous message for our pilots is that you can put money in here and never pay tax again if you use it for healthcare, or you can put it in the market-based cash balance plan or spill it, and you would pay taxes at the effective tax rate. So that really is
That's
the
right.
benefit. So
That's
so
right.
let's go on now to your next slide, Andy, if you can pull that up. And I think you have a slide about a tool that you built, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. And before we do that, I might just
Yeah.
all, and we've been hitting this a little bit throughout the video today, is the number one criticism of this account is, hey, what happens if I die, right? And so I think there's a heuristic of,
Or if we
well,
die.
we die, yeah, yeah, or they, all of us. I don't know how, the dependents as well, right? But if
Yeah,
you die, and then it'll go to your spouse, right? And then your dependents who are eligible, right, could otherwise use it as well. So what does that mean? It's not like a HSA or any other account where you can pass it on to your heirs as you see fit for IRAs and brokerage accounts, things of that nature. So you do lose a little bit of flexibility, kind of back to that discussion of, hey, we kind of don't want to overfund this thing. I think what we'll show you today, it's
right.
pretty hard to overfund this thing. But all that said is, I think there's a heuristic of, we're gonna lose it, or I'm gonna put all this money into this thing. I'm never gonna, it's gonna go away. Therefore, I don't like it, and I don't want a single dollar going into this thing.
That's
And that's
right.
probably not the right mindset. You have a right to be upset at the structure of it. Um, if you lose the money, right? If you lose the money, but I don't think that means it's a binary. Therefore, I don't want to participate. So I think that's a point worth
Yeah.
worth calling out.
Just to pound the table here on this. I mean, if you have $300,000 of future expenses and you die, those expenses do go away. Still
Yep.
unfortunate. You have to have some of these rules to get around constructive receipt, which is just the doctrine to say, I got the money. So once you get the money, you got to pay tax on it. So this is one of the ways that this structure actually works, Andy.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Okay. So now on to, we'll use an example here. We're using some broad examples. Again, everyone's situation is
Mhm.
different. Would encourage you to kind of look at your own situation. But let's just say, you're a young FO, right?
Mhm.
I put only, but it's not a meaningless benefit there. You're getting about $1 per flight hour. So let's say you've been at the airline for 5 years or so, you've got 5,000 in the RHA, you're putting
Mhm.
$1,000 in, you're 35, you retire at 65. You're like, ah, cool. That's a lot of money. That's going to be great. Well, that is
Sure.
true. Your average RHA value is about 98,000 or 100,000. By the way, we're using Monte Carlo simulation here. So we're taking this return and standard deviation. We're running 1,000 trials. So over 1,000 trials based on our expected healthcare costs, right? Remember that 318,000, or we take about 12,000 per year in today's dollars, inflated out to when you're a retiree. You're like, that's great. I have $100,000, but frankly, you know, at the rates we think, not we, but most experts say healthcare will go up in value, or costs will go up. That might just get you about 1 year of premium Medicare premium coverage. So even though it's a big number as you project out, I just think it's worth framing of, if you just put the minimum amounts in, where you don't spill anything in, you're probably not going to get a tremendous benefit out of this, although that's 1 year of savings, so that's great. But the true value is not really going to be unlocked. So we've got to start putting more money into this thing as we go.
Yeah, and one more final comment on that is that, insurance companies are forcing us as individuals to pay more for medical stuff, including medicine. So if Medicare doesn't
Yeah.
cover a certain drug and you want that drug, having this money will make it easier to spend it on that drug you want that might not be fully covered by Medicare or your drug coverage. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's look at our captain. We'll say we've got a 55-year-old captain.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're going to put 10,000 per year in. So now the current value of this RHA we'll say is 20,000. They're going to spill, right? However that mechanism functions, $10,000 per year, or they're electing into the RHA, and we'll just make an assumption about $10,000 going in. So this is 55 years old, retire at 65. So you can see now we run these simulations. This axis here is number of years in retirement. This is number of trials with a positive value, if you will. You're still only lasting about 7 years in retirement. 7 years in retirement, and that's an average value of 162,000. So the point being here is this is someone making significant contributions. They're obviously high earner, and they have the ability to have that cash flow into their HRA or RHA, and you're still not getting much beyond the 7 to 10 year mark, if you will. So I think there's some salient points to take away from this. One is if you have less than 6 figures in this RHA, you're probably good. Like you're probably going to fully exhaust this account. And I would say if you plan on fully exhausting this account, then as we put it, as we were talking before, you've won essentially. In other words, you've unlocked the triple tax benefit of the value,
winning,
and you're winning. Yeah, and absolutely. And so I think we can make reasonable assumptions about if I'm a 65-year-old, I'm otherwise healthy. Do I have a life expectancy of greater than 7 years? I think you do. Again, that's going to be a personal decision and your frankly your own health, right? But I would say the average person would live longer than 7 years.
All right, Andy, I got to stop you. I got to stop you there because you're saying think like an actuary, and who wants to think like an actuary, right? But let's stop for a second. If you're 65 years of age and there's 2 of you, spouses, what are the chances you'll make it 5 years or 7 years? I mean, you don't even have to think like an actuary. You probably will. And once again, if you do, you're going to consume money on healthcare. It's either in the RHA or it will be money from some other source, but you are going to consume it. And so yeah, there is really a sweet spot probably for each client. We just don't know what it is. We don't know what it is. I mean, how risky do you want to be? That's really the question. And how much regret, maybe you won't have that regret, but your family might have that regret if you put too much money in it. So you just showed some incredible scenarios. Are we able to run these kind of scenarios for people? And I know the answer is yes, by the way. At least I think we can. Just talk a little bit about the tool that we have.
Yeah, I think it's it's pretty straightforward, but it's again, everyone's different. Certainly what their current values are, that account, what they anticipate being able to put into that account going forward, their age. And then again, it comes down to a personal preference of, how much do you want to have in this thing, and the trade-offs between this RHA and a market-based cash balance plan where ostensibly you can get higher returns. You can invest it the way you want. Again, once you roll it into an IRA greater than age 59 and a half, this is again for the market-based cash balance plan. And the ability to pass it to your heirs, right? So if that's a higher priority for you, then maybe you would think about funding the cash balance plan. The trade-off there is the marginal tax rate at which you're going to pay to withdraw those funds to pay for the healthcare that you otherwise could have used your RHA and with a triple tax benefit. So yeah, I think that's kind of the way to frame it. You were asking about using the tool, but we can use the tool to kind of model that out. Let's do some financial planning, Monte Carlo simulations to model out, what does it look like for you? And then you can hopefully make a more informed decision.
So as far as the investments in the RHA and the market-based cash balance pension plan, can you just discuss the differences there? There are some nuance with those as
Yeah.
well.
So the HRA is going to be put into that money market type account. So very
Yep.
conservative. You're going to get essentially whatever the money market rate is. It's around 5% today, which is great. The RHA is going to be invested in a Vanguard target date fund, and they essentially shift your retirement age or year 10 years sooner. Again, with the assumption
Right.
is, hey, if I'm a 2030 retiree, well, when Vanguard builds that 2030 fund, they're not just saying you need all the cash in 2030. They anticipate a 30 plus year time horizon. And so the HRA or RHA, I should say,
Yep.
has probably a shorter time horizon. So they do a more conservative portfolio. The cash balance plan is invested kind of like a pension, right? And so United's kind of on the hook for any shortfalls in this account. And so
Right.
because of that, they invested very conservatively, think like a 30% equities, 70% bond allocation. So your target date fund in the RHA and the market-based cash balance plan are probably similarly allocated. The benefit of the cash balance plan is once you turn 59 and a half, you can then withdraw and roll it into an IRA. And then of course you're free to invest however you see fit in that account. So that's where we talk about, these trade-offs between this cash balance plan and the RHA is, yeah, if I could invest in NVIDIA and get 150%, and then that would pay for all my Medicare and then my medical costs and then some. Now, that's not super realistic, but that's, certainly a mindset that some may
It could
take.
happen. It could happen.
Yeah.
But it might not.
Yeah.
Probabilities
Right.
are against you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really what you really just said is that they're both invested very conservatively. So most of the heavy lifting with either of those accounts is going to come from the contributions that our pilots are putting into those accounts. There will hopefully be a decent return, but it's not gonna hit home runs.
I think that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay. So any other comments or anything we left off, Andy, on the RHA and how much to put in?
Yeah, no, I think maybe the takeaway is you probably need more than you think. It's not bad despite some limitations. And I think, is if you're looking for a number, if you have less than six figures in that account at retirement, then chances are, you're going to fully exhaust that thing and extract the full benefit out of it. I would say very few pilots find themselves in a position where they have a substantial amount, substantially more than that, just based upon the structure of this account historically, and where folks typically are when they can kind of start super funding this thing. That I would say most folks don't have the numbers that would present the concerns that are the predominant concern of like, I'm not going to have this account. So
Absolutely.
I would say that's probably the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. So as far as beating the tax man, you have HSAs, you have Roths, you have 529s if used for college, and you have the RHA in that arena as well if used for medical. So we do like the idea of not just the idea, but the tax savings that these vehicles can offer. And again, if you want help making that decision, we're happy to chat with you. Andy, thanks so much for joining us today with all things RHA and medical. And we will talk to you again soon.
Been fun.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Leading Edge Financial Planning, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Leading Edge Financial Planning and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For additional information, please visit our website at www.leadingedgeplanning.com. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, and it should not be relied on as such. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or an offer to sell a security. It does not take into account any investor's particular investment objectives, strategies, tax status, or investment horizon. You should consult your attorney or tax advisor. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change based on market and other conditions. These documents may contain certain statements that may be deemed forward-looking statements. Please note that any such statements are not guarantees of any future performance, and actual results or developments may differ materially from those projected. Any projections, market outlooks, or estimates are based upon certain assumptions and should not be construed as indicative of actual events that will occur. All information has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. There is no representation or warranty as to the current accuracy, reliability, or completeness of, nor liability for, decisions based on such information, and it should not be relied on as such.